After the high-grade Lefrith, or Lubrith, I was very much looking forward to getting my hands on the Ariel. I was not disappointed. And this little beauty was provided to me by my favorite online hobby store, Hobbyling Japan. Links down below. Now, over time, the proportions of the Ariel have really grown on me, and this high grade is, in my opinion, the best rendition so far. I love how this little high grade looks, and it only gets better thanks to those clear parts for the Gund arm system. With the chest, you can choose to use either the amazing looking pre-printed option, or you can apply the stickers yourself, be it active or non-active. For the legs and the backpack then, we unfortunately don't get a pre-printed option, and even though you do still get the choice between active and non-active stickers you have to apply yourself, you can definitely see a difference in the clarity, with the pre-printed option of the chest looking way better. As for the head then, you can either apply the active sticker, or you don't, because there's already a gray piece underneath. And the choices continue with the shoulders, where you can either go for black or red, and then with the eyes and the back sensor, you can choose between green and red. Also, at the time of recording, I don't remember the Ariel ever using those red eyes, so I just picked them because they look cool, and I really hope that I won't end up regretting that decision. As for the rest of the stickers then, there's 2 red and black ones for the chest, a blue one for the middle gun bit, and 2 light gray ones for the top gun bit. But even with these, you're still gonna have to paint the back. And since we're on the topic of painting, you'll need some dark gray for the back and the bottom of the feet, the back skirt, and various parts of the back of the shield. So while they are all out of sight, they're also not insignificant. The seam lines then, at first glance, might look very good, but once you look closer, you can still spot some on the knees and the back of the legs. Still, even as a straight build, the Ariel is quite the looker. The Gundam system is looking fantastic, the proportions are on point, and the few visual flaws that I just pointed out are nicely hidden. And things only get better when we have a look at the accessories. First up, the beam rifle. It's a more streamlined version of the one used by the Lefrith, but it still functions very much the same. We get a nice beam effect part, and it fits nicely into either the right or left hand, or if you don't want to use it, we get an extra piece to attach it to the backpack. Also, there's a light gray sticker for the sensor. Then for some close range combat, we have the 2 beam sabers on the backpack, which also come with 2 clear blue beam saber blade effect parts and fit snugly into the hands. And finally, we have the shield, which is so much more than meets the eye. Yes, you can use it as a normal shield on either the left or right arm, and it will rotate around, but this shield can also be divided into 11 different gun bits, sometimes also called Ares. That can then either serve as remote weapons with their own built-in beam cannon, or they can dock with the Ariel for various performance increases. For example, giving the beam rifle an enhanced output and more accuracy. Also, you might have noticed that we have this leftover piece when the gun bits aren't in shield mode, so technically speaking, the shield is a parts former. And there's also another thing that you can do with the shield that the manual doesn't tell you about. You can also hook it up to the backpack. And the real 2 final parts are these chest pieces that I already talked about in the beginning. So moving on to the articulation of this thing. The head is on the usual double ball joint, and for the forward movement, it is mostly going to be the bottom ball joint that's going to do all of the moving, with the top ball joint actually being very easy to disconnect in my experience. Then for the shoulders, we get some more ball joints for some pretty good forwards movement, backwards movement, and upwards movement. Then the shoulder armor is on a hinge, moving out of the way of the arms, which will rotate around, bend at the elbow on only a single joint, but it is pretty good for being a single joint. Then the hands are on the usual ball joints, will wiggle around, turn around, and do everything a ball joint does. The waist then has a ball joint inside of it for a little bit of forwards and backwards and sideways movement, we have a peg that takes care of the rotation, and then the very thick thighs do not get in the way of the movement as much as you might expect. They go forwards pretty nicely with the front skirts being molded together, but they can be separated. And then because we have no back skirt to speak of, at least if you don't attach the gun bits, the legs do also move pretty nicely backwards. But this is where those thick thighs do get in the way of the movement. And for the outwards movement then, the side skirts do move upwards, allowing the legs to go all the way up like that. Rotation then, it exists, but it's not the greatest. The knee then is double jointed, unfortunately revealing some hollow parts on the inside. And then finally, the feet have some really good forwards and backwards movement. They'll go side to side pretty far as well. We have a nice toe joint, but we do not have any rotation. What we do have though is an ankle guard that is on a little ball joint. So yeah, with nothing to get in the aerial's way, the articulation of this thing is really good. Even without an action base, the range of poses you can pull is great, and it only gets better when you actually get an action base. So as always, the inevitable question is, do you want to buy this? Yes. At 1,300 yen, this is a really sweet deal. Not only is it worth getting the Ariel because it's the main Gundam of which from Mercury, but everything else is great as well. It looks fantastic, the articulation is amazing, and the accessories give it a lot of play value. Heck, you might even want to pick up a second one. It's not without a few minor problems, but they are easily overshadowed by the amount of positives. Not to mention that they are easy to fix with some paint. So then, for some size comparisons, first of all, here it is next to the Lafrith, the mobile suit that it was based on, and target practice. Poor Gule never knew what hit him. But it is good that it did, because I really like where his character went afterwards. Next up is the Barbs, because people were getting some serious Iron-Blooded Orphans vibes when this thing was announced, and the Revive RX-78 too. And then finally, here it is next to the standard-sized Gym Custom and the always bulky Zaku 3. And that has been all for this review of this absolutely not a Gundam. Depending on who you ask, when you ask, and why you ask. But what is for certain is that the link to buy one for yourself is down below. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.